Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. And yet again, we've had another very good debate on the steel industry with lots of contributions from the backbenches. I think I counted 21 contributions in our short debate from the backbenches, from Wellingborough, Aberavon, Bedford, Hartlepool, Corby, Penistone, Stockbridge, Monmouth, Middlesbrough South and East Cleveland, Gower, Allen and Deeside, Newport East, Motherwell and Wishaw, Torvine, Middlesbrough, Scunthorpe, Rutherglen and Hamilton West, Cardiff South and Penarth, Swansea West, Redcar, Blackburn and Leeds North West. And I think it has been an excellent debate. I'd also like, as others have done, pay tribute to the Community Trade Union, the leadership of Roy Rickus and others, and also to Carwyn Jones, the Welsh First Minister, who's been mentioned during the course of the debate, and my honourable friend, the Shadow Secretary of State for Wales, on our side too, for her efforts on this issue. Now, Madam Deputy Speaker, our role as Her Majesty's loyal opposition is to hold the government's feet to the fire on this issue. Let's be clear about that, because our industry has to have a future. We have to make sure that the UK steel industry has a future at all. And we're having to do this because the new Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills, straight after the general election, signalled quite clearly and quite overtly that he was not going to continue the consensus that we've had for the last decade that's been emerging and growing about the need for a UK industrial strategy, I wonder if the new Secretary of State for Wales wants to learn that his job is to sit there and shut up and listen during this debate. Now,
I think let us stay calm. The honourable gentleman may wish to, I would strongly suggest, rephrase what he's just said.
I think the new Secretary of State needs to sit there in silence and listen on this very important issue that affects Wales in particular, which is his responsibility. Now, the UK needs an active modern industrial strategy which understands the importance of foundation industries like the steel industry to rebalancing our economy. Now, I understand that the Secretary of State for Business, coming from a city background and with a professed laissez-faire philosophy about politics, shouldn't really want to use and doesn't want to use the term industrial strategy. But he's wrong about that, Madam Deputy Speaker, because I'm from a sedentary position. They ask what my background is. I worked in Llanwern Steel Works for 6 months. My father worked over there for over 20 years. So I don't need questions of my background from the Secretary of State for Wales, who can't sit there, shut up and listen to the debate, as he should be doing, on behalf of his constituents in Wales. Now, I understand why the Secretary of State for Business, Innovation and Skills doesn't want to use the term industrial strategy, but I'm afraid he's wrong not to do so, because unless the government is prepared to strategically support British industry, the Chancellor's so-called March of the Makers will simply become a death march of the makers in this country. We're not going to stand by and let that happen, which is why we believe there is a future for the steel industry in this country. And not just steel recycling in the United Kingdom. Can I say that to the Secretary of State? We need to hear a commitment that he's committed to steel making in this country, and not just the recycling of steel, important as that is. And we've been asking for months, Madam Deputy Speaker, for a clear commitment from the Secretary of State to make clear its view as a government as to what is the minimum strategic steel-making capacity that it believes must be maintained in the UK's national interest. It's not been prepared to say, which leads inevitably to the suspicion that it doesn't have a view as to what is the minimum strategic steel-making capacity in the UK's long-term economic interest. That doubt at the heart of government, Madam Deputy Speaker, is like an impurity in steel if you were pouring it in a steel plant in this country. If you don't get rid of that impurity, it can lead to a disaster. And it'll be a disaster if the doubt at the heart of the government's policy isn't got rid of. We need to make sure that the blast furnaces at Port Talbot remain. We need to ensure the ability to make new steel, not just melt down old steel and reuse it, must remain in the armoury of UK PLC. That's why it's important to say we need an industrial strategy, not an industrial approach. We need clarity on steel making, not just vague, warm words. In short, we need strategic leadership, not the laissez-faire laxity that's undermining UK PLC.